Today, we're talking with Sjoerd Handgraaf, CEO of Sharetribe, about how positioning can save your startup. Welcome to Beyond SaaS. I'm Jason Neidel, founder of Tethos. We solve growth problems for tech companies, and we've taken what we've learned from amazing leaders and compiled those tips, tricks, surprises, book choices into a hypergrowth playbook, which you guys can grab at tethos.com/podcast. Today, I'm really excited to talk with Sjoerd, who is in Helsinki, Finland. So thank you for staying up so late. He is the CMO of Sharetribe, a customer-funded online marketplace platform. And Sharetribe helps founders build successful marketplaces with their mission to make marketplace technology accessible to everyone. Their platform supplies flexible technology for almost any business idea to match buyers and sellers. And this is cool because I looked at it and it has rentals and services and products and other marketplaces like classifieds and job boards, things I just haven't seen anywhere where you can actually go and it's flexible enough to build everything. And Sjoerd also hosts the acclaimed Two-Sided, the Marketplace podcast. So hopefully you'll tell us a little bit about that. And he regularly writes what he calls opinions disguised as observations, helping marketplace founders launch, iterate, and scale their businesses. So thank you so much, Sjoerd.
Thanks for having me.
And I appreciate you staying up late and letting the kids go to bed on their own.
Yeah. They should be going by now. Luckily, there's someone else in the family as well who can handle that. But that's the pleasure of doing business for mostly U.S. market from Europe. This is one of the things that comes with the job.
You're used to it. Do you have a quick tip for our listeners today?
I do, yeah. We all have these massive book lists of what you should read, and we go and read them. And I was thinking, like, which ones are the ones that really have made sort of a meaningful change in my life or in my behavior that's business interest. And for me, like, one of them is called this book called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke, a former poker player. And I think the subtitle, I'm paraphrasing probably, but it's like how to make decisions with incomplete information or something like that. And that is, the point is that basically often like business books, they talk as if decision making is like some kind of chess where the pieces and this is what you need to do. And she makes actually a really wonderful argument saying that it's more like poker because never, especially in startups and SaaS businesses, you're always working with incomplete information. So it's not about knowing the best set of steps that you need to do or moves that you need to make, but rather like being aware of what you don't know and being aware of how you make the decision and then come back to it and learn from it. So where the outcome of the decision doesn't actually say anything about the quality of the decision, which I think is a really, really healthy way of looking at your marketing.
The outcome of the decision doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the decision.
Exactly.
I love that.
The book starts with this, apparently some famous, maybe Super Bowl final or something where a coach did a particular strategy that didn't work out. And people were like, why did he do that? And then she said, well, actually looking at the odds, he had done it 50 times before and it had worked 42 out of 50 times. So why wouldn't he do it? It was the best option with all the information available. And I think that's just such a lovely, I don't know, like that's just something that I didn't learn in business school or whatever. For example, one thing that really sticks and that I do a lot with the CEO is this little trick that she teaches, like, would you put money on this decision? So if you say like, you think about certain strategy or whatever, marketing campaign, will we do this or will we do this? Okay, if you would have to put like $1,000 of your own money, on which one would you put it? And it's as silly as it sounds, it is just enough of a sort of check that like
it's a tiny shift, but I see how it could actually work. Yeah.
So that's
because a lot of times. So I have this problem in my business too. A lot of times when my rewards are greatly deferred, I'm not very motivated by them. But when I can say like, okay, if this happens, then I reward myself now or tomorrow. For me, it almost has to be within a week or it doesn't matter. But that little trick helps me a lot. So I could see how would you take money out of your pocket right now and bet on this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, it just helps. And we can be, something can fail, but you can still be, especially if you sort of are aware of what you didn't know at the time, you can sort of map out, hey, actually now I do know, like this thing that I didn't know, I do know. So for example, I can actually give an example. I don't know how long we want to hang on this topic, but something that I just did very recently, like from a growth perspective, is that we started reaching out to software agencies because, we are essentially a software platform. We initially always focused on people who are not technical or who have this sort of lean startup approach, so they don't want to do a lot of coding up front. But over time, as a lot of our customers have matured and we get more, and our product also has matured and our sort of business has matured, we have gotten bigger customers in who sometimes use software agencies who then sort of work with our API, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're like, hey, maybe we should go out go out to them. But we did a sort of a campaign on like, okay, let's try to get in touch, a cold email campaign, like what many people do, try to get in touch with them, try to get them on a call. And while the reception is always very enthusiastic and they're like, oh, this is actually really good, we could use this. The thing is that most agencies, they have maybe 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 20, depends a little bit. Not all of them is a marketplace idea, like not a two-sided idea. So they're not really interested in until they have a customer to do it. And it becomes really hard to sell the product. We weren't looking for any payment or whatever, which is more some kind of like partnership or whatever you want to call it. Like, and I think this was just something that we hadn't sort of realized that, okay, this is not, most of these agencies, they're really living by the day. So if they don't need it now, then just getting the sale or getting the deal or getting the partnership is not like, yeah, it's just hard. Even people who are like enthusiastic on the call, sometimes they're like, yeah, just send me the thing and I'll send it back. And then they would just ghost. And it's like, okay, well, this is just like, we had just grossly overestimated maybe their
So
interest level.
it was the right tactic and was the right decision, but you didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, this is not groundbreaking. We could have maybe come to this conclusion or like thinking that, oh, this is probably the case, but then we still probably would have done it, like just to try, because why
I
not
wonder
learn it?
too, like you've opened the door with them. So I wonder almost if you, because you say give first, ask later is something that we've talked about before. And so I wonder if with those people, if you were supplying that information on how to build marketplaces or what the key factor elements are, and then they're getting your content for a long time, but you've already opened the door with a warm call or something like that.
Yeah.
Then when the time does come and that 1 in 10 pops up, you're there.
100%. Yeah, that's why I don't, maybe, yeah, that's a good point. And that's also how we've sort of like written it off. That's like, hey, they now know about us. They didn't know about us before. Mission accomplished in that way.
Yeah.
But I think we were looking for maybe a little bit more. But yeah, I think looking back at how we made the decision, it's still, I still stand behind it. That was the right thing to do. Right bet to make.
Cool. Well, tell our listeners a little bit about Sharetribe.
Yeah, so with Sharetribe, we are marketplace software for founders. We help people who have a marketplace idea, commonly known as the Airbnb for X or Uber for X idea, where you have many parties fragmented on one side, many parties on the other side. If they have a business idea with those characteristics, we have a platform, or we have the software for them, which we can build a platform. And when I say them, I mean literally anyone who's ever done something on the web, who's ever opened a blog or is not that technical, can use our no-code marketplace builder to get a really comprehensive marketplace with payments, user management, listing management, reservations, booking calendar, everything working literally in a day. You probably want to spend a little bit more time on customizing it, and we have a 14-day free trial, so you can actually take that time. But also, if you do want to use code, it's an open sort of set of APIs, so you can pull in whatever you want. If you need external data, or if you want to connect another CRM to it or stuff like that, you can extend it infinitely, and we'll handle all the scaling. So if your idea is a success, it takes off, you can build whatever custom feature you want on top of what you already have, and we'll handle all of the scaling and performance and those kind of things. And we've had a couple of really nice customers who have gone through that journey that I'm just describing. So it's not just marketing speak.
Very cool. And you explore that all the time on your podcast. Tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast, because what you referred to earlier, like give first, ask later, indeed, like that's what we try to do with all of our sort of marketing/content management, because it's part marketing. It's also part self-serving, because we basically help people build their startup if it happens to be a marketplace idea. And so you can imagine that there's a lot of sort of natural churn in our product, right? Even if our product would be the best in the world, which of course I think it is, their idea might still fail and they would churn. And we realized, like, seeing that it takes a lot of marketplaces are this particular kind of business. Essentially, you're building like two businesses, like one for the demand side, one for the supply side. We all know people who are great at the idea phase, not so good at executing. So we try to sort of support them with everything that a founder needs. And part of that is we try to give them everything that we have learned from helping like thousands of founders launch their marketplace. And
that's amazing, right? Because you have a massive base of knowledge that no one else might have.
Exactly. We've seen a lot. And then what we haven't seen, and that's where the podcast comes in, I go and ask, same as you do, people who work in the industry. So I've interviewed people like founder from Kickstarter, one of the founders of Kickstarter, Lenny Rizhitsky, who hopefully most people here in Growth know, who was very early at Airbnb. I talked to Casey Winters on the podcast, who was at multiple two-sided platforms like Grubhub, Pinterest, Eventbrite, whatever. Cool. And we try to sort of, uncover what's the formula to a successful marketplace, and then share that with our customers and aspiring customers. Or also, Actually, one of the things that we do with content marketing is that it should be usable by anyone. So you can use all of our stuff and never touch a Sharetribe product. Of course, we would like you to, but sometimes it's not a good match. So we try to just deliver that to the world. Like it's not a customer exclusive podcast. Anyone can find it and join us in our journey on discovering what makes marketplaces successful.
I love that. I have a listener who runs a music studio, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with AI and SaaS, but she likes the topics.
Okay.
So so it's great that it can be universal, that we can make these learnings as a way to grow your business.
Yeah, and of course, like just like now, like in this talk, hopefully also there's always something that is like goes out of the space that you're talking about and can be applied somewhere else as well. So yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier, actually, I think this was in one of our emails beforehand, that you lost product market fit and found it back. Tell me a little bit about that.
Talking about things that you sort of realize like after many years working in the space is that this is sort of recent learning that product market fit, like the way it's usually described is that it's some kind of like sequential journey. So you do this, you have your idea, if you follow sort of the lean startup approach, like you have your idea, you go out, you build an MVP, you validate it, you adjust, you get the feedback, etc. And then at one point you hit product market fit, and then it's up and away, like it's going from
it's
that.
magic.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go into step scaling. And something that I just sort of learned from our own experience and from reading other things, but what I in retrospect sort of saw happening in our own experience is that it's not a static way of being. One of the Reforge people, Eli Lerner, I want to say, but he calls this thing the product market fit treadmill. So you reach it, but at that point, you just already have to do work just to stay in place, because the product and the market are both like sort of dynamic entities. And so things
Especially
can change
now.
in the market. Yeah, no, exactly. Like the most glaring example that we see now is that, AI is changing everyone's market. And so what has
You
worked
almost can't be a SaaS product without saying that you somehow have AI in your product anymore. Or otherwise, no one's like, oh, well, who are you without AI in your product?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the market in that way is not even sometimes a rational being, right? Like why, like I'm sure there are SaaS business why would we even need AI? But people expect it. And what people expect, like the table stakes determine what is the market. And if your product doesn't change accordingly, then you lose it. And so I think we had that. So the very first product that we had in 2011, it's more a little bit like a WordPress kind of thing, or like Squarespace for marketplaces, like very quick to set up, customizable, but it had some limitations. And especially once people got successful, they needed some custom feature, which we simply didn't. There was no sort of like, there wasn't the flexibility that we have in our current platform. So we couldn't offer them that. So on the one hand, like I said, natural churn, loads of people leaving. And then the ones that got successful, we were also losing them because they were starting to build from scratch, like after having proven their idea with them. And for a while, that was still like, I think fine. People like the product was good enough, and growth was really great for a couple of years. But then at one point it sort of started slowly flattening. So churn went up, acquisition went down, and in retrospect, I feel that like expectations had gone up. Like, and not that we were lazy on the product, we were just not adding the feature. Like I think the demand for features just was faster than what we could add, or maybe not the features that people were, not all people at least were looking for. So I feel that that's when we lost it. And then we built this, this is like the third version that is out now. We launched it in 2024. So once we got that old product run, we tried to build this product, which was a fully API based, but then we ran into the problem that actually you do need to be technical to take it into use, which is also sort of like, so we lost that part of the audience. We tried selling those two products at the same time for a little while, which is extremely confusing for customers. And then we built this, we were like, okay, we need to combine these two. Like we need a no-code product that can also take code, can also be customized, does not get in the way. And that's this product that we launched in 2024. And since then, I feel we have really found it back, because before we got that out, we had sort of 2 years, which were like flat to decline growth. Like there were some horrible quarters in there. And we were building this new product, waiting for it to go out. It was not a lovely time. We tried to be like a positive company, like respecting people's time. We weren't doing extreme overtime. We know that software development is hard. Like there's no point putting artificial deadlines in, but there was still anxiety as you see the burn increasing, churn increasing, and nothing really coming in the top of the funnel at the same speed. And this new product just coming a little bit later than you'd like.
And costing money to develop.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then when it finally came out, suddenly we've had like 2024 was our best year on record. I've been with the company like 9 years. It's been the best year we've had. It's been like incredible. So like suddenly things work also. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that is like maybe a sort of a message of hope, or I don't know, to marketers out there, that I think that a lot of the marketing stuff is sort of always built on the product market fit thing, like that the product is just not good enough. You know what I mean? So like all these marketing hacks that you read about, or like, oh, you see these great use cases, we did this, we did that. I think what people forget to mention is that, oh, and also we had a really, really good product. Like we had, I think Lenny Rishitsky actually said that in the episode, it's like build something people want, and then everything starts working. So
You do have to do the other things, right? But if you don't have that core that provides the right value and solves the right problem, then all those other things are never going to work right.
yeah, yeah, but I think that because it's hard to look critically at your software and be like, hey, maybe it's not as good as it should be. I think especially in organizations that are very like engineering focused or like product focused, that realization might not hit because they've been working on this for years. How can it possibly be bad? It must be the marketer
I mean,
who's
honestly, I just
not.
talked with a software company the other day, and their categories will be dead in a year because of AI, and they still are not ready to accept that. And they're like,
Yeah,
they want me to come in, and and when I talk to them, I'm like, you see where your category's headed, right? And they're kind of in denial about it, and I'm like, no, I can't go there. You know,
yeah, yeah.
if you can't accept that your industry is falling off a cliff and you have to make some radical shifts, then it's not going to end well.
Sometimes you're also truly just not seeing it because you're like, no, this product that we have, it is great. And well, I mean, that's a whole science in itself. Like, how do you convince the customer to do something like that? This is sort of a realization that we've had here internally also about this product market fit. And since then, I think we also look at them more radically. So to your point, for example, really fiery discussion currently going on as a company, like, what do we do with AI? Because like, is it a competition? Is it an enhancer? How are we positioning ourselves here? We need to do something, but what is the right thing to do feels still like we need to do some work on that still.
I had a guest bring up Lovable, and then I had a listener say, I tried Lovable and I built a site I was working on for years and not making
Yeah.
any progress. And it would have been a $10,000 site, and I built it in 3 hours. And it works pretty well. And it's like, some of these tools are unbelievable, and I don't know if they're relevant to ShareTribe, but they're absolutely changing things for sure.
Yeah. I haven't tried out Lovable. I tried out Replit and there's Bolt.
Lovable's pretty amazing. I haven't tried the
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure that the sort of the experience, the rough experience is roughly the same. You're like, okay, it can build a lot of things for you. Like, and it can really produce code. It's not entirely black box. I think my issue for now with it is that, and I think where ShareTribe is maybe adding more value, is that whichever you get everything already out of the box. Do you know what I mean? Our experience is that marketplaces, I think this is sort of also one of the foundations for our business, is that marketplaces share about 90% of the same features, right? Like whether you're Airbnb or a car rental, like the mechanics behind getting to a transaction are very
Right, there's
similar.
certain key components that have to exist.
Correct. And so we have that up and running and tested for you at scale. So like, I think the value comes from that. I've seen people launch something in a day. And I think with my experience with the AI coding, it still takes quite a while to have it understand what you want. And then, of course, what if it breaks? What if it's at scale? Then at some point, you're going to need a developer who then needs to familiarize themselves with whatever the AI garbled up. And I'm not convinced it's
May
the
not
best
always
approach.
be the safest thing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's see. I mean, I don't want to be in denial about this. So that's why we're discussing this also internally.
Yeah. So a moment ago, you mentioned that 2024 was your best growth year ever. And then I saw on your website that you guys just published the 26 key marketplace metrics. So what are your key metrics? How are you measuring?
For sure, when I talk about the best year, I'm just talking about revenue growth.
Okay, good.
So we did not add barely any revenue, like yearly revenue, for the last 2 years, for the 2 years preceding 2024. And we added almost 500,000, I think, in 1 year in 2024 alone. And we have been on the same flow since. So that is, that's the metrics I'm talking about. Traffic, we've improved it, but it hasn't increased to the same amount. I think accounts, like our flow is basically like someone visits the site, they create a trial account, etc. And so I think all of those top of the funnel numbers, they went up, but I think what was just really made the difference is that people like the product. And so conversion was just much, much better. And like the way that we did the pricing and we arranged the plans just made a lot more sense to people. It was easy for them to choose the right plan. They like the price that they're paying for it. It fits with what they want. And I think that whole combination. And also, I think we were much clearer. Like we did our positioning much better. So it was much easier for customers to understand what it is that they're buying into, what is being offered. And then in the product also, we delivered on that promise that we made on the marketing side and all the marketing beforehand, which has been like a new thing for us, or a refreshed thing for us.
So I like to look at that problem. It's always like top of funnel, like more bodies in the funnel. And then
Yeah.
once they're in the funnel, reduce friction. And it sounds like, and that's like remove constraints to buying and remove the other constraints.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you said you were getting the same amount of people in the funnel, but your plans are more clear, your product's more effective, you do more of the things that they wanted to get done. So
Yeah.
you had a much higher conversion rate. So even with the same funnel, all of a sudden you're getting more growth.
Yeah, I mean, we were growing also top of the funnel, but I think that was not to the degree that we grew with the revenue. I mean, sounds a bit like lame, but it is like holistic thing. Do you know what I mean? That like
It is. It should be.
what
Yeah.
you put out there, the first time that people engage with your brand, come across your brand, that it's already clear what it is that you're doing. What can they expect? Why are you better than the competitors or the competitive alternatives? Who are you for? Those are things that I think over the time, because like I said, like we've been in this business for over a decade, me 9 years. This is something that, and maybe this also relates to our, like mentioning the bubble, when you're in the bubble, it's easy to forget that, and also probably for us, that most people in the world don't even know a product like ours exists. That there is a thing that can build a marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really easy to overestimate what people know and sort of make things more complex than they are. We underestimate the amount of people who don't know about this entire category existing. So like,
Right, you're living it, so of course it exists, right? But there's
yeah,
plenty
no,
of people who think, oh, there's nothing that's going to help me put together a rental marketplace.
precisely. And so I think we just did a much better job at that. Maybe actually that's another book tip. This great book by April Dunford called Obviously Awesome, which is like a guide to positioning startups, basically SaaS startups. And we just followed that book. It outlines a workshop. We did that with the whole management team and people from all parts of the company. Like, what are people talking about? How are they talking about our product? Like, we went through loads of our customer support tickets, when, what feature requests, when we ask them to give us a review, what are the words that they use? What verbs? Like, are they talking about speed? Are they talking about ease? Are they talking about how nice it looks? Are they talking about the price? Like, because you have sort of preconceived notions about what you're putting out there, but that might not be how people experience it. And actually, they take us because it looks so good, while they just like us because we're so fast. I think we just got all of our, like, is it all ducks in a row? Is that
Yeah,
the
your ducks
expression?
in
I
a
think
row.
we,
Got your
yeah,
ducks
I
in a
think,
row.
yeah. And I think that is just, like, then everything starts clicking just a lot better.
So I love on this show, I love to look at constraints. And what is it internally that's holding you back from growing faster? What is the internal constraint to growing faster?
Yeah. It's also because, so we're a bit of a special company. Like, our ownership structure is extraordinary. We are what is called a steward-owned company. We were originally sort of traditional VC-funded company, and then after a couple of years, right around when this sort of lull in growth started, our investors started to push us to a direction that we weren't super excited about. Although the two founders realized, hey, actually, we don't want to sell this company ever. And so we moved to this thing called steward ownership, which basically means like we raised 1.5 million euros in crowd investment. So we have investors. But the steward ownership model basically means that the company is built for a mission. And like you mentioned very nicely in the intro, our mission is to democratize the platform economy. And we do that by making technology accessible to everyone. And that is our mission. And everything should be in the purpose of the mission. So our mission, not to actually generate a profit. Like, the profit is a means to the end of what I just described. And the other thing that comes with it is that we cannot be sold. So it will be very hard to raise additional funding. So we are profitable. We have some money in the bank. But I think maybe our biggest internal blocker is just like resources, because we cannot expand the marketing team really fast until we have sort of proven that we can,
Right. You
we
don't
can get one.
have millions of dollars in VC money that you can throw at
Correct.
marketing and lose money for the next 10 years.
Exactly. And I think that is really great. I'm super grateful for that, because you just pay a lot more attention to things like unit economics, like LTV, retention, those kind of things. But sometimes you need to take that shot, and we just have, maybe compared to what you said, like a VC funded company who's growing faster, we just have a more limited amount of shots. So I think maybe that is internally the biggest constraint, that like we need we're a bit more conservative with making big bets. Let me put it like that.
Sure, that makes sense. So I love that you have your own podcast and you've met all these marketplace founders. What have you learned from them about growing a company?
Any aspiring marketplace entrepreneur who's listening to this podcast or has maybe this idea to understand is that The one thing you need to do when you start a marketplace is constrain it. You don't go out and be the global Airbnb and have like a marketplace that is immediately global from the sites, because there is this thing in marketplace called liquidity. So liquidity is the likelihood that if you are a seller on the marketplace, you sell what you list there. And if you're a buyer, you find what you need. And
Mm,
most marketplaces, if not all, can basically be divided in this sort of matrix from like, on the one axis you have like locations like geo, and the other ones you have categories. So if we take a really simple example like a car rental marketplace or a peer-to-peer car sharing platform, actually we have a really cool customer called DriveLaw from Singapore. They have grown to many millions. They're now also Australia and New Zealand, but I'll take them as an example. They started in Singapore, which is a really tiny city state where actually cars are extremely expensive, so it makes a lot of sense. And they could have gone to any other company, but Singapore is actually a really great hub because it's very compact. Everybody can do business with almost everybody. Of course, they have neighborhoods. So if they launch it in Singapore and I need to find a car in Singapore, if they have their supply in order, I can always find someone. If they would have gone bigger like East Asia and they would have, I don't know, some cars in Taiwan and then the other things that, demand in some other place, you cannot make this transaction happen.
right. There's no match.
And no, exactly. And like this is happening, like I've seen this happen so often that, and even the most famous ones like Uber started on the corner of some metro station where there's like,
Mm,
okay, our demand is there because, it was like, I think it was San Francisco, there was some super busy metro and whatever other connections were bad. So they went there. Hub, Casey told me, was just in Chicago in certain neighborhoods because he wants to be able to talk to the restaurants in the neighborhood, and you want to first advertise to people living in that neighborhood. There's no
hmm.
point taking Chicago bigger because just getting enough supply on board that everybody finds something that they like and is close, it's just too big. So you really need to take it. I think Andrew Chen, actually one of the Andreessen Horowitz investors who was early at Airbnb, another book recommendation, but he has this book called The Atomic Network, and that's what he finds. Like, find the smallest thing where these things are in order, and that just start your marketplace for that. Doesn't matter if you have only 4 transactions per month. You will learn like 80% of what you need to learn about your idea in that small constrained cycle. So I think that's the number one lesson I've learned, that everybody says at any scale that this is what you need to do. Or alternatively, I wish we would have done that in the beginning because we wasted so much time and money.
Interesting. So on episode 26, which I don't think has come out now as we're recording this, we had Guilherme from a company named Wally, Wali, and he's down in Brazil, and he does car sharing and car rentals. And it was so interesting how he broke it down, and supports your thoughts exactly. So first he started in one city, but they were starting with daily rentals. But then they realized there's people who can't even afford the car for a day. So then their other segment became hourly rentals.
Yeah.
And then there was people who could afford it and they wanted the car for the month. So they had those 3 different audiences in one city. Then they moved to another city and they realized, wow, these people resonate with things differently. We have different landlords because they had to park the cars and obtain cars. And so
Yeah.
when he was looking at his segmentation, they had to get hyper local in every one of those elements and just move slowly from city to city until they could have enough saturation to own that market. And then, okay, good. Now we've got this. Now we can move to another city and grow it again. But it's just like you said, if they just tried to go to Brazil to everyone, it never would have worked.
Yeah, because like this understanding this liquidity like is so important. Like there's a great interview to have with this company called White Hat, but she used to work for hire.com when they moved to the UK, and they literally just they went to London first and they just broke all of the things down, and they just had this massive spreadsheet where there's like, like certain type of coders on the one thing, like whatever, like UX designers in Notting Hill or something. And like, as soon as one of these things turned red, she called their marketing person. It's like, okay, you need to put out advertisements for this job, or we need more UX Python coders in whatever, West Chapel or whatever. And it was really like, they just had this massive spreadsheet with all these little holes and just trying to balance it all the time. And of course, over
Interesting.
time, they got more automated. But that's truly what a marketplace is. Like there are all these tiny, tiny centers where there's just a good match in and out, going in and out, and they need to be in balance because otherwise you don't make any money.
Yeah, it's this magical thought between literally matching buyers and sellers in the best way possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts before I let you head back?
No, I just, like I said, if you have this idea, or what I said resonates with an idea that you had, would be great if you give Shadow at least a try. It might be a really good fit. And if you're into podcasts or general business podcasts, or want to learn more about marketplaces, check out Two-Sided, the Marketplace podcast, available on all the platforms.
Cool. And where can our listeners find you?
Well, you can take my name from the episode description and just add me on LinkedIn or just send me a message at sharetribe.com. So that is SJOERD. That's my first name at sharetribe.com.
And that website again is shareandtribe.com, just like it sounds, ShareTribe.com, ShareTribe. Sjoerd, thank you so much for being on Beyond SaaS. For tech leadership out there, we're committed to exploring company growths. So we drop episodes twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can find me, Jason Neidel, at Tethos.com, where of course you can grab the Hyperscale playbook at Tethos.com/podcast. If you got some value today, please share the episode with a friend. And I love questions, comments, feedback. That's really helpful. Until next time, this is Beyond SaaS.